Hello, all you Deep Space Nine fans out there. I'm joined by Fatheree today for the premiere of Season 2. We're going to watch it like it's brand new. This is the episode, The Homecoming, and I believe this is the first time...
Is it one of the Spider-Man sequels, The Homecoming?
Yeah. Deep Space Nine, Far From Home. This is the first three-parter in any Star Trek, isn't it? I don't think they've ever... Yeah, okay.
The first, and they didn't really do it again until Enterprise.
Yeah.
Right?
That's correct, I believe. And it's a very... It right away, you know, like, the show's improved from this episode and the next two, which is like a great kind of like TV movie in a way because it adds up to about 2 hours and 10 minutes. So it's great to watch in sequence, but we're going to do this weekly. Hopefully we'll do this... we'll do the next two for the next two Saturdays. As usual, nobody's really watching this live. They never watched live. They kind of just like watched it in the replay. And I never really announced it. This was more of like an on-the-fly thing. I didn't even know if I was going to come back and do commentary for Season 2. But I'm glad you're here, Fatheree. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be here because I am a huge DS9 fan.
And yes, you also have all the DS9 knowledge. All right. We're going to queue up the episode. We're going to do the 3, 2, 1. And after 1, we hit play. Are you ready, Fatheree?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
I want to know what that dude was laughing at.
Yeah.
Dabo!
You can see Rom eavesdropping in the background.
Yeah, the depth of these sets is so great. You can have these very layered shots like that. You know, you look behind him, you see people walking around on the promenade out the window.
It's amazing how many actors go through hours and hours of makeup to
Like
be
both
in the
these
background.
dudes. Oh, well, yeah.
Well, that too,
to
but
be in the
just
background.
to walk by in the background. Like Tracy Coco, she was Lieutenant J in oh my God, Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
She's also in Generations. She's in this episode
First
somewhere in the
Contact.
background. Yeah. Oh yes, she is too. I believe she's also in Insurrection. I think Nemesis is the only one that she's not in. But she was often, sometimes an alien in the background in these scenes.
Kind of like that dude who plays Linus on Discovery. They often use him as different aliens.
Yeah. I love their relationship.
Rom moved closer. He didn't want to like be obviously eavesdropping, so he's like wiping off the table.
Oh yeah. Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. That's good. How do you pronounce his name?
Too.
It's Max Grenichik?
Sure. That's
Okay.
pretty close. Oh, here's this freighter captain. They never say her name in continuity. I think the books gave her a name.
Okay.
But she shows up a couple more times after this.
What, in the show itself, like, or just this episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's in 3 episodes, I believe. The
She's
earring is
played.
our MacGuffin.
Oh yeah, uh, Lee Nollis's earring. Uh,
Yeah.
She's played by Leslie Bevis.
Yeah, she's also in. I think it's called The Abandon, the one with the baby Jim Hadar,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then she's in the season 4 finale when Odo got sick and had to go back to the changeling world and got turned into a solid.
And you know your stuff. Well, you've probably seen it 100 times.
I've probably seen the original series more than any other Star Trek show. At Deep Space Nine, I've seen the second most for sure.
I've watched DS9 in its entirety only twice. Once in 2018, and like 15 years before that. I love this scene. Uh, it always stuck out in my mind. Like I always had the memory of this scene, but not necessarily the episode it came from. She's only in there 10 to 12 seconds, right? And she's completely changed. I like that because it implies that there's some sort of futuristic dressing system that we
Oh,
never
really?
see.
I just
Because it's
thought she could
quick.
get dressed fast because she was like a guerrilla fighter, and they had to like do stuff quick. Like if they're
When I rewatched this a few weeks ago, I timed it. I was like, it's like 10, 12 seconds. Like from the time she goes in the room and she comes back out, and I just thought like, oh, maybe she did change that fast. But Quark's just standing there, kind of looking at her too, right? And I'm thinking, maybe she went into some kind of like clothing chamber where it's like, phew, takes off your current outfit, puts your new one on. Because you'd think like, by the 24th century, there would be dressing kind of mechanisms like that. You could literally just like replicate your uniform onto yourself. I mean, but they never had the budget to really explore that. Who's this Gene Roddenberry guy?
I think he was one of the special effects people on the show.
Ah,
Or like a PA or something. I don't know.
yeah. This three-parter has a lot of good actors, like Frank Langella.
Oh yeah, Dracula.
Yeah, well, I know him best as Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. He also played Richard Nixon in Frost Nixon.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good in a lot of stuff, isn't he?
He's
Um,
he's really good in the Trial of the Chicago Seven.
Interesting trivia about him is he said he did this because his kids really liked Star Trek, and so he was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll go do this Star Trek character, and my kids will think I'm cool."
It's a great role for him too. Gul Dukat is also in it, so that's always good. They have such a cool relationship. It's never like there's never any bullcrap between them.
Yeah, that was very important to Avery Brooks because believe it or not, in the 1990s, and even now, I don't think there's a ton of them, but back then there were no like single black fathers on TV, and it was more common for like the black father in a lot of American TV to be depicted as absent. So he really wanted the writers to make sure they showed a good, healthy relationship between this father and son.
Is he talking about the Bajoran girl he likes?
Yeah, he basically is like, oh, yeah, I want to like bring her over at home when no one's alone, and Cisco's like, no, 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 you take her out on like a date out in the public, and no hanky panky.
Mm.
He's 15, right? Because he's 14 in season one, so he's 15 now in season two.
Yeah, he's almost as tall as Benjamin there.
Yeah, yeah, he grows so fast. Very, very early in the show, he just starts becoming a giant. I guess this does establish his attraction to Bajoran girls. Uh, he has a couple of Bajoran girlfriends. He gets the hots for Kira in that one episode where Loxana Troy makes everyone get horny. We see him married to a Bajoran woman in an alternate future in The
Yeah.
Visitor.
What is a tort?
Like a dessert, like
Looks
a
good.
tart, maybe. I don't know. Is it like a Bajoran thing or is it like a real food?
I don't think. I think it's made up.
Mm.
Well, it has to be because it was like the name of a planet slash tort or something. He's like, wow.
We see Jadzia do something similar to this later in season two, when she's like, "I need a runabout to go murder some albino dude."
Oh yeah, the TOS Klingon guys in it.
Yep,
What's his
Kor,
name?
Kang, and Koloth.
Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty it's a pretty big episode of DS9. It came to light
Blood Oath.
when Discovery season 1 because of the albino Klingon Volk in that. So people looked back to that episode as an example of another albino Klingon.
Hmm.
And if that albino Klingon they show in that episode is like very different from a lot of other ones.
Yeah, well, the albino in Blood Oath, wasn't even intended to be a Klingon, so it's kind of questionable if he is or not. I mean, it looks like he
Oh,
could be,
okay.
but the script had him as like a different alien, unknown alien, unnamed, I should say. But yeah, this is where they set up the plot for this. Is that basically, oh, they now have proof with that earring that Lee Nollis is alive. He was supposed to be turned over. The Cardassians were supposed to have turned over the prisoners, but this guy is being kept at a prison camp on Cardassia for he needs to go be rescued.
Yeah, there's all these Bajoran prisoners on Cardassia 4. Well, then they're not supposed to be. It was all supposed to be, handled. I think that's why Goldicott later is like, oh, we were found out. So he might as well be like, okay, it's cool, you saved them. Nothing we can do now. They won't fight over it because he knew. Goldicott knew that dude was there. What's his name again? God damn it. Lee Nollis. He knew Lee Nollis was there. He knew that prison camp was there. By the way, there's a Cardassian they show later on. Anytime this actor is in makeup, he's instantly recognizable. Like he's just so distinctive. I'll bring it up. John Fleck is his name. He's
Mm.
coming up later.
This is our introduction to the circle, and when I was younger, I kind of thought the Bajorans were kind of boring, and they weren't like what I was really invested in when I watched DS9. And I think a lot of audiences feel that way. I hear a lot of people complain about the boring Bajoran stuff, and people like the later seasons of the show much more than this early stuff. But really and truly, looking at it now, the Bajorans are very fleshed out. We see so many different pieces of their society, and here with like this Bajoran supremacist kind of like nationalist hate group, like, oh, we want to drive all the aliens away from Bajor and be fully independent. And
They created enough of a complex world in Bajor in this series alone where it feels very real. It feels more believable than most other aliens because other aliens kind of are just there even Klingons, we haven't been down on their planet too much,
Yeah.
observing their culture all that much. Usually it's in a court or the council chambers or something. But Bejor, like they actually go down. You see like their lakes and their trees and stuff, and their homes and their churches, and
Yeah, and
not
we
not a
learn
lot of
about
it.
their religion, we learn about their government, we learn about their military, we learn about their holidays, we learn about their food. It's
And a
yeah,
lot
we definitely
of
get that with Klingons, Vulcans, whatever. But DS9, it's like all Bajoran all the time. The advantage of having the show
yeah,
set at one place, a station, and not a ship going from system to system.
like if somebody went into this cold and watched the first season and the first 3 episodes of this season, I mean, unless they weren't paying attention, like as an adult now, not like as a kid who would probably want a little more flash and bang, but they give you a ton of information. You get a really good sense of like the history of this fictional alien race,
Yeah.
and they really bring the Cardassians into the forefront too, and make them really interesting characters. That's good.
I also love that we see Cisco playing with the baseball that he got from the Buck Bokai alien, I guess,
Yeah,
pretending to be this 21st century London Kings baseball player.
it was Babel, right? No, 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 it wasn't Babel.
If wishes were
If wishes were
horses,
horses.
aka the Rumpelstiltskin episode.
Yeah,
But that baseball is so important. Like we see that baseball so much over the course of the show, including there like the very end of the show.
yeah.
And also the use of it at the end of season 5 is one of my favorite moments in all of Star Trek.
I like that O'Brien goes with her. It's
Yeah, they needed someone to pretend to be an Irish pimp here in a little bit.
and O'Brien's had experience with the Cardassians, of course,
Mm-hmm.
so it makes sense. Did she really think Cisco's gonna let her go alone? I mean, it's at least a two-person job.
I love when we see the runabout come off of the landing pad.
Those were big special effects back in the day. It's like,
But Star Trek often took the time to like show that. So then like some of the newer shows, that was a big complaint with early Discovery is that like we didn't get to see as much of the ships. Yeah. They've actually gotten a lot better at that.
yeah, visually the show keeps improving. They definitely didn't have a lot of those establishing shots that we were used to. It was kind of just like, I don't know if it was a cost-saving measure or what.
I think they just didn't. They weren't expecting that to be something the audience would be that concerned about. It just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a priority.
It's funny how this Cardassian prison camp thing has gone unnoticed for this long. But it's funny, like how it just takes. It seems a bit too easy, I think, how they get in there, but I'm willing to overlook it.
Yeah, I mean, the
Do you want to
Enterprise
help
went
us?
all the way to Ruapente in Star Trek Six to rescue Kirk and Spock. So,
Yeah.
but Cardassia 4, that's like, in the middle of the Cardassian Union, right? It's like in the Cardassia solar system. We don't really know what planet Cardassia Prime, like Cardassia Prime and Cardassia 4 might be the same thing for all we know.
Well, maybe. He's so clever, Kira. God, I
Hutet
want to see this
Leverkamp.
remastered. Um,
I was just
there's
thinking
a
that shot of the runabout would look really good in HD.
yeah. There is a shot of Kira in this episode where she shoots one way and then she turns her head and unlocks the shield so O'Brien can get in. But in the documentary What We Left Behind, for that scene, they actually use an alternate shot. It's like close
Hmm.
up on her face. Like the shot they use in the actual episode is a wider, but this is like right camera like
Oh,
dead on her
well,
face, and she fires the phaser, then she turns her head toward O'Brien.
the all of the footage of Deep Space Nine was all shot to where it could be used in 16:9 or 4:3. So
The
a lot of the shots that they use in that documentary look different. They have the wider aspect ratio. They have the top and bottom cropped off, and they have
I
more of the left and right.
Yes, true, but this is the one instance where they actually used an alternate
An alternate
take.
shot.
You
Okay.
know, I was before I was going to use it for the thumbnail, I couldn't find it, but
Yeah, I used that for a thumbnail on our Tex-Trek season 2 part 1
but
podcast that Dave and I did last year, I think.
when the shot comes up here in a couple of minutes, you'll see like, oh, that's not the same one. It's a,
Mm.
like actually the alternate take they use in the documentary is a better shot, especially for the widescreen because it's like it's got that close up and it's got that depth of field blur behind her and it looks so good. Uh, like these bright scenes in actual outdoors really lends itself to like uh, uh, an upgrade, especially with old like 35 millimeter film. You get less grain in better lit situations. This is John Fleck, by the way, who's played many aliens on Star Trek. He played Silic in Enterprise.
Like how he lowers then raises the force field. It's like, well, like if O'Brien had been walking faster, you could have like chopped his leg off or something.
Oh, there you go. Would it work like that? Would it actually like sever your foot?
That's what I would assume.
This
I don't,
actually,
the Federation might have safety precautions, but
his first appearance was in TNG: The Mind's Eye as a Romulan.
as a Romulan, yeah.
He was also in DS9 as another Romulan. He was in DS9 again. He was in Voyager. He was Silic in Enterprise. He played a human in an episode of Enterprise, and a Barathan in Enterprise. He has a very distinct voice and a very distinct looking face. So any makeup you see him in, you can kind of see the actor.
Yeah, Silic was probably the biggest thing he's done because that was a recurring character.
His voice is like the way he speaks is
He's a
so
good bad
different.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's It's a very sly
Very
way of
very
talking.
menacing.
Yeah.
No, Kira disarmed him with the double fist punch, which is the most powerful move
In
in
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek. Yeah, in Star
Yeah.
Trek combat. And then if you actually hit someone like that, you would break like all the bones in your hand. But no, Star Trek is guilty of yeah, when the heroes need to like knock somebody out, they can just slap them around for a little bit and make them just go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's just something you have to accept and get over. That goes all the way back to the original series. Kirk would punch you in the face, knock you out with one hit, or give you a karate chop to the neck or whatever.
The guy who plays Lee Nollis, I don't know if you've ever seen Twin Peaks, but he's in that show.
I've never watched Twin Peaks. I know I need to. I actually have not watched a ton of Lynch. I love Eraserhead. The 1984 Dune got me into Dune. Uh, yeah, I think he's good from what I've seen, but I've never done Twin Peaks. Lee Nollis is a very interesting character. I like him a lot more than Commander Nollis on Star Trek Discovery. But they both end up with the same fate.
Yeah, he tells a story to Cisco toward the end that's very very cool about he's not the hero people think he is, and how the stories of his heroics became more and more grandiose, I guess.
Yeah, he's kind of
To
like he
where
was like a tall tale during the
yeah,
Bajoran resistance. But he's a genuinely good person. Here he was like concerned with like getting everyone on the runabout. He's actually a very good
yeah,
guy.
I never got the sense for a second that he would turn or something, or he's secretly some kind of jerk. Because, I mean, like, this is the first time he's been free in what, his whole life, maybe?
In a couple of years,
At least, yeah.
because the Cardassians just left Bajor at the beginning of season one. Like this is before they actually have like the big official peace treaty with them. That comes later.
Okay. I really love Cisco and Kira's interactions. He's so slimy. I love it. Mark, I can never say his
Limo.
last. Alimo, yeah.
Me,
For the longest time, I called him Mark Alamio.
well, me being from Texas, I always want to call him Mark Alamo
Oh yeah.
because I always remember the Alamo.
I gotta say, Goldicott is one of the most likable bad guys ever. You love to hate him. You really do.
Yeah.
She's almost
Tre-
surprised then, right? It's like,
I'm
oh,
sure. I'm sure you've seen that Trexpertise video from it's a few years old now. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old, but he has a video where he makes the case that Gul Dukat's actually the best villain in all of Star Trek, and it is hard to deny.
it really it's hard to argue when you look at the body of work that the actor did throughout the series. You never had a villain recur that much.
Yeah.
Aside, you could say Kai Wynn maybe, but in terms of like just
I mean, there weren't many recurring villains up until this point. I mean, there was Khan, Q,
yeah,
Moriarty. That's kind of it, right?
Q you could say is like second or third maybe.
That Ferengi that was out to get Picard.
He was in two episodes.
Was it Damon Bach?
Damon,
I
yeah,
think.
something like that. There was a first season episode, was it, that he was in,
Uh,
and then
I guess Harry Mudd had shown up 3 times. If you count the animated series and his 2 original series
yes.
appearances.
Just I always keep thinking like if they somehow spun DS9 off into a movie, and had like Gul Dukat in it, or even if Gul Dukat just showed up in a TNG movie or something. Like, there's so many missed opportunities, but I mean, they could only do so much.
I mean, I feel like the show did everything that they wanted to do with them. Uh,
Yeah, well, that's true too. There's a sense of completion at the end. I mean, it's not a show that leaves you hanging too much.
yeah, that was very intentional by Ira Stephen Bear because he said at the time, like, we were the redheaded stepchild. I knew they were never going to give us a movie, but you know what? Like, our show is good enough. We lasted 7 seasons, and I made damn sure that we gave every character like a satisfied ending. And he really did. It's like, oh yeah, like they kind of didn't need any movies. I would love to return to Deep Space Nine, especially now. But that story of this show did conclude. We did get that resolution.
And I mean, X Files did it where they had a TV series and then they had a movie and then they went back to the TV series. I know that's very difficult, but even like with Deep Space Nine, you could have an actiony kind of like build up and climax, but utilizing like these enormous sets that were already there, that automatically cuts your budget by like a certain percentage, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And these sets you could have shot a movie on. Like they were huge. They were gorgeous. They were easy to light wonderfully.
This to me, this three-parter, like when I watched it a few weeks ago, I watched it like all the way through. And I was like, wow, that was long. Like it felt long, but it felt satisfying. Like it was an actual like, you know, complete exciting story. Granted, if you translated it into like an actual feature film, it might be a bit lacking in terms of like for a general audience, say.
Yeah, you'd probably want like a big action set piece because it's kind of like Star Trek Six. It's very like kind of a political thriller, and there's like conspiracies and stuff like that. But Star Trek Six still has like that big battle with the bird of prey.
Yeah.
You'd probably want to put something like that in here at some point. I guess that escape from Cardassia 4, you could have made that a little bit more elaborate. It could have been done.
Yeah, the whole O'Brien and Kira going to Cardassia 4, doing what they did in Escaping, that's something you really could have punched up for a film action wise. But like I said, like it's missed opportunity. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But like you said, the show is in itself its own entity, and it's fine that way. Like it really is. That's why I think a lot of people now more than ever look at DS9 as kind of like the example of what a quality Star Trek show should be. Like the writing is just like you don't get you don't get this quality of writing now in anything really, and that in terms of science fiction. Science fiction to me, a lot of it is just very kind of dumbed down compared to what it used to be. Like to me as a kid, this all this stuff is like boring, but I love it now because I'm actually interested in the character of
10
Lee
years.
Nallis, which I never was.
He said it was 10 years in
Oh
the Cardassian
Jesus!
camp. That sucks.
You feel real empathy for a lot of Bajoran characters who've gone through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're a really good allegory for oppressed people or victims of imperialism or
Yeah,
fascism. You could view them as they play it up a lot, but it's like Jewish people in the Holocaust, but also as like Native Americans that were
yeah.
victims of imperialism, or even like now I think like the Palestinians and the Israelis. Like there's a lot you can compare them to.
Yeah. I like how I love where this conversation leads. I think this is the scene with. Oh, maybe it's later, where he reveals the story about the Cardassian in his underwear.
Yeah. And this is before like Cisco's really accepted his role in Bajoran society, and before he's embraced his status as the emissary.
Yeah,
But even here, I mean, right now it's probably like, oh, I'm just doing my job. This is just my job. But even here, like he shows like a lot of concern for the Bajorans and doing whatever is best for the planet. And he maintains the myth of
yeah.
Leonalis.
He's he totally cares. I mean, that's why I think other characters in the show can trust Cisco so easily because like I know you're on the level kind of thing. This is a funny scene. As punishment for just saying it's not fair, he's gonna screw him over even more. Rom feels like a real alien. I never think of an actor in makeup when I see him. Like he genuinely looks like from another world. And I think that has something to do with the actor's face. He has such a like a distinguished look, or particular look to him.
I don't mean this to negatively or anything. I think it's actually good that he continued to evolve the character, but Rom is not. Max hadn't quite figured out how to play Rom yet at this point. In season one or early season two,
But he's
he
early on.
gets
He's
them
played
there
as
though.
yeah. He's kind of played as submissive and just a weakling,
And he's
basically.
not as dumb. He's a little bit more typical like sinister Ferengi. And then later they're like, well, like he's kind of dumb, but he's actually like really brilliant with technology. And he has the best part about him is he has like a heart of gold, and he really cares about family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, burning this thing on his head. This is something. There's in Babylon 5 in the first season. There's a hate crime against the alien with a forehead prosthetic, and almost this exact same thing happens. It's one of those weird parallels between Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine.
Oh, it's it's funny. Those Bajorans look like those freaky people from Eyes Wide Shut.
Those masks.
It's funny. I was gonna say earlier about the spray painting the symbol on the walls.
Tagging the walls with your gang sign.
I always thought that was a bit hokey because like I figured in the future like you'd have like detailed graffiti, like you could just like point a thing at the wall and it would just go there. Like you wouldn't have to actually use a spray can, or whatever they used. I don't know. And where are all the cameras? Why aren't there any cameras anywhere?
There are cameras though, because in Odo's security room, you see he has like his cameras of the station. But yeah, like they never seem to actually capture anything useful.
It's like a completely different day. Like, oh, that's sweet. It's like first I got to watch her change, and now this.
Yeah, now listen to what happened to poor Jake.
Oh, he was a victim of prejudice because he's human.
Uh, which is a very very common thing in real life.
And it's an allegory
Sadly,
for both race and religion too, because like back in the day they had this thing where like a Catholic couldn't date a Protestant and all this. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But my grandfather is Protestant, my grandmother's Catholic, and that was like a thing that wasn't common back then. None of either neither one of them are devout or anything. It's like, so what
That
does it
probably made
matter?
it easier.
It's like we believe in a slightly different version of the same book. That it's okay, whatever. I don't know. We shouldn't be separated by those things, but it's funny. Like it is an allegory in the future, even as far as humanity has come, and we've all settled our crap. We still got to deal with galactic prejudice between species. Even O'Brien in that TNG episode has to get over his like prejudice toward Cardassians.
Look
That's a
at
cool makeup
this
job.
alien. Yeah, it's like I kind of wish that like some of the modern Trek aliens would look more like that and less like super elaborate.
Yeah,
Because some of the more elaborate aliens, like the actors can't like express. Michael Westmore, who did the makeup and all the Berman era Star Trek from '87 till 2005, the thing that makes him such a genius, like even though like yeah, some of his designs aren't good, but a lot of them are extremely brilliant. And what made him a genius is that he understood what would allow the actors to still be able to express and emote, and where to glue shit on an actor's face and where not to, and what materials to use, because all of these actors can still act their asses off, whereas some of the more modern, more elaborate creatures don't have that same level of expressiveness.
there is a common excuse that they give for the more elaborate alien makeups, even like on the new Ferengi, say, or Klingons and whatever, is that most of it now is just full face masks, and that is so that uh, they don't have, because back in the day Westmore used pieces. It all just
Right.
wasn't one mask, and then they kind of blended in around the eyes and the mouth. That's a lot of what they do now. It's just like full mask, blend around the eyes and the mouth, which sometimes you even see the creases of in
Even like
in
the Orions on Discovery have a
full
mask on
face
the
mask.
face instead of traditionally you just would have slapped on some green paint.
Uh,
And I think the
no,
I mean, you see Orions in HD in the original series and in Enterprise.
looks good.
They look good, and I think the ones in season one of Discovery they don't have the face mask. You don't see the face mask until season three. Like Clint Howard, when Clint Howard shows up in Disco, he just had like green paint on his face.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They need to find a balance.
They did the Bajorans good on Discovery. Like the Bajoran looked like a Bajoran.
And the whole idea of they can't do pieces because of the Ultra HD and whatnot, but they do that with a lot of like Bajorans or the Federation president in season 4.
Yeah,
It looks perfectly blended, and you can touch it up in post if there's any kind of issue, however small that may be. This is a good story here. He's talking about how he
yeah. He was considered a famed warrior for killing this Klingon on the side of the lake, and instead
or
of like,
Cardassian.
or, I'm sorry, Cardassian, but instead he fell in front of the Gull who was bathing and was just standing there completely unarmed, literally with his pants down, just standing there in his underwear.
And he was so shocked he didn't even realize he had his weapon still at first. Then he shot him.
Yeah.
Story got blown up. He doesn't feel like a hero, but that's what Cisco what he says here. So it's a bit of a trope of like, I'm not the man they think I am, but you could be the symbol like Batman or something,
Yeah,
right?
it's like you're not the hero they need, but the hero they deserve type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it the hero they need, not the hero they deserve? It's like those are
So,
actually kind of interchangeable, but
yeah. His voice is so good.
Avery Brooks.
Yeah, it's like it's like butter. And like you would see why he would listen to him, right? It's like, well, you do make a good point.
Yeah, but it's because he's actually a good person. Even if he's not this legendary warrior, he's still a very good person. And then Cisco,
And
You might even say manipulates,
that look
but
there
uses
he
that to
just
push
gave.
them.
That look he gave at the end there,
Yeah.
where he looked a bit frustrated. It's kind of like he's like I think he deep down he doesn't want to carry on with this the way it is. But after
No, he for
Cisco
sure
said that,
doesn't.
he's like, because I'm a good person and because I can inspire my people, I'm gonna do what I have to do. I wonder if okay, there's a revelation here in a second, and I wonder if Lee Nallis was aware because he doesn't say anything at first that he's taking over, or does the other
Oh,
dude just lay it on him like, oh, this is just new information?
yeah, I'm not sure if we're talking about Kira is going to be removed from the station, and Navark Linalis will be installed as the new liaison to the Bajorans.
Navark, it's like a title that only he
Yeah, they
has.
created the title.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another one after him either. He might be the only Navark.
To
Well,
be
that's a cliffhanger,
continued.
though. We're like, oh, Kira, you're gone.
It's like,
He's like,
is
Donald
this
Trump told her she's fired.
is this the end of Kira?
Find out next week on an all new Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I just love those promos.
He's like the same guy did the voice in all of them. Is either like the main guy who did it or one of the two or three guys that could copy his voice pretty well.
One of the earliest Star Trek things on YouTube was the promos for all the TNG and DS9 episodes. Like next time on.
Yeah, Trek Core did that. They
Okay.
posted all those. I think. I could be wrong. I had a computer game back in the day. I had it was like the Star Trek Encyclopedia, but like as a computer application. Install it with the CD-ROMs, and then you could, basically access the Star Trek Encyclopedia on your Windows 95 or 98 machine.
Okay.
That had those promos on there, and you could watch them in like really shitty resolution.
Yeah. Then like Star Wars Episode One trailer resolution.
Oh my god, I remember downloading that so I could watch it in Windows Media Player, and it took forever to download on dial-up internet.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing back in the day. All right, we got to end it at 47. So thank you for joining me, Fatheree. Hopefully you'll be back next week for part two. Until next
Yeah.
time, live long and prosper.